All right, everyone. Welcome back to Hot Route Takes here. I am your host, Chase Owens, along with my good friends Christian Mills and Brian Sarver. We are on the NFL Week 18 preview show, final week of regular season action. It all comes down to this, and it is headlined by a battle for the AFC East between Brian's Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. A lot of good stuff going on coming into the final week. We've got a lot of teams still fighting for playoff positioning, division titles on the line in a lot of these football games. And we're not going to waste any time. If I tried to, this is take two for our listeners of this episode, but on the first attempt, I was trying to paint the picture and the playoff scenarios, tiebreakers for each team. To avoid talking on that for 5 minutes, I'm just going to say if you need to look at what the tiebreakers are holding and what each team needs to do, there's a great article on ESPN breaking down just that scenario for each team. Give that a look. So not going to waste my time speaking about that. I'll just kind of mention what implications are for each game as we get to it. So the first one here is a Ravens matchup, which was flexed to Saturday, originally a Sunday game. It's going to take place 4:30 between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. With the Ravens clinching that 1 seed last week against Miami, they now can rest their starters. Lamar Jackson will not be playing quarterback in this ball game. Tyler Huntley will be under center, and he'll be looking to get a victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who can clinch a playoff berth with a victory plus a Jacksonville loss or a Buffalo loss and certain things. So with that in mind, them fighting for that playoff spot, I'm going to take the Steelers. I hate the Steelers. I'm never going to pull for them, even against our backups. But us resting a lot of key guys will play into them having the upper hand, and I think they will be coming in well prepared by Mike Tomlin, and they'll get the job done.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chase. I think Baltimore resting starters, Tyler Huntley to start. I think in a must-win game, Mike Tomlin's going to have his guys ready to go. They'll probably get the run game going, play some good defense, and pull this one out.
I think we're all going to agree on this game. It's Pittsburgh. Just with starters being out for Baltimore, that's the main reason you go Pittsburgh. But I will say Mason Rudolph has been impressive with his starts. I'd like to see what they do definitely against. I picture a lot of backups to see how this offense really get clicking and maybe see if they try to open things up.
Yep, agree with you there. The other Saturday game is an AFC matchup. This one boils down to a playoff berth guaranteed by the victor. The victor could end up winning the AFC South if Jacksonville were to lose Sunday. But both of these teams going to come in fighting for their lives. A loss is going to eliminate them from postseason contention. So you've got the 9-7 Texans traveling to the 9-7 Colts. For me, I think these are two fairly evenly matched teams. I think Houston's a better roster, but they're a bit more banged up. But at the same time, I think C.J. Stroud's just been among the best QBs in all of football this year. I think he polishes off a great rookie campaign and gets his guys into the postseason.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think C.J. Stroud, even in a game that they're on the road against Indianapolis, in a playoff atmosphere, I'm sure it's going to be. I just trust C.J. Stroud a little bit more than I do Gardner Minshew. I think that he's, even though a rookie, has proven himself to some degree. I think this is a guy that's going to rise to the occasion in a playoff game, playoff-like game, win or go home, if you will. But I am going to pick Houston here.
This team, they hadn't seen each other since, week 3? And, many things have changed. We're talking about no Anthony Richardson, who got banged out in that game. Tank Dell's been banged out now. But, in reality, both of these quarterbacks that are going to play in this game are the same guys. And they both really, what happened in that game, you go back and look at the stats, I expect this game to kind of go the same way. But with that being said, it was Zach Moss in that game for 18 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. So I expect Jonathan Taylor to have maybe even a better day than that. And Michael Pittman coming back from his injury that he suffered a couple weeks ago in the Steelers game, the hit he took. I expect, the Colts playmakers to be there and really step up to the occasion and get a big win for not just them, but this coaching staff. That's a new group. I kind of see an upset happening. They did it in week 3 a lot. A lot have changed since week 3, but I still think the Colts, to me right now, is just a little bit of a better team.
Yeah, you could argue whoever wins this game has a coach of the year candidate, considering there'll be a first year coach making the playoffs with two teams most of us and most of the NFL personnel and media predicted to not even flirt with playoff contention. So credit to them going into week 18 tied atop the AFC South. We'll see how that one plays out Saturday night. As we move along to Sunday action, we get to a AFC North matchup, the Battle of Ohio between the Cleveland Browns, who have clinched a wildcard berth already, facing the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's already been eliminated, no scenario where they make it. So I know Cleveland's going to be resting a few guys, but I just think they're a really, really good roster. That defense, you can rest up your key guys and still put out a sound unit. And against Browning, who's had a rough couple of weeks here, I'm going to take Cleveland to put together a 12-win season, which would be a great job for them.
Yeah, so the Browns are starting Jeff Driscoll. Not sure the last time he played was, but I still think the Browns have a solid roster, even if you're not having your best players out there, which they really haven't had on offense for a large portion of the season, with Nick Chubb being out and some of their offensive linemen. But I think that just in general, the defense is good. Not to mention Cincinnati's banged up their own way with Chase being hurt, T. Higgins being hurt, Jake Browning's already at quarterback. So I'm just going to go with the Browns here. I think even though they're sitting, they're a little bit more healthy, and I just think they have a little bit more of a well-rounded roster.
Yeah, honestly, I think the last time that Jeff started was for Cincinnati. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was his last start when Joe Burrow went out previously. So, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. But I just think Cleveland, I got them. I've rode with this team. I mean, not going to jump off now. Definitely after seeing what Cincinnati did against a KC team that we don't. We all have our views on that team right now, but I think Cleveland's defense is just one of the top units. I think the defense is what's really been carrying the team until ultimately Joe Flacco did come onto the scene. But I think this will be a big week for them maybe to get this running game going that we haven't seen a lot of since Joe Flacco has been there. And with that, they get this running game going and they can lead on into the playoffs building upon that with Joe Flacco.
Yep, a red hot Cleveland team for sure. As we get to the NFC side of things, we got a North matchup between the Lions, who have clinched the NFC North, taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Still a very slim outside chance they make the postseason, sitting at 7-9. I think among all the teams fighting for the spot, they are the one that needs the most help. I believe they need a Green Bay, Seattle, and Tampa loss or a Saints loss. So they need a lot of things to break their way. And that said, I don't even think they take care of their own business. I'm going to take Detroit in this one. I think Detroit still technically has a little to play for in playoff seeding. They could get the 2 seed if things fall their way, I believe. So I'm going to take them in this ball game and to officially eliminate Minnesota from postseason play.
Yeah, Dan Campbell came out about 30 minutes ago and said that the starters are playing in this game. So Detroit, I'm going to go with them. Minnesota definitely did not impress me last week against Green Bay. So I just think Detroit's going to be able to run the football, be able to do what they want on offense. And then Minnesota's offense has been struggling here of late with 4 interceptions for Nick Mullins the week prior. And then last week, just pretty much a disaster in offense. So we'll go Detroit here.
Yeah, they've already said Nick Mullins is going to be the starter too for Minnesota, so that really turns me off of this team. We've seen everyone but Joshua Dobbs come back when this offense was looking somewhat decent. Still blows my mind, but I'm going with Detroit. I think this will be a game where both of these running backs, didn't go like planned last week. So I expect this week to be a big week for Montgomery and Gibbs.
Next up, guys, we've got an AFC South matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. As I mentioned earlier, with the Texans and Colts playing on Saturday night, that's likely for an AFC wildcard berth. That said, if Jacksonville is to lose this game, they can find themselves on the outside looking in. So they need to take care of business on the road against an inferior opponent. I think they'll handle that and clinch the AFC South with a victory against Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jacksonville as well. This is a divisional game. It can get weird. I know that Tennessee would love nothing more than to send Jacksonville home packing. I'm still going to go with Jacksonville here. I do. I'm not sure that Trevor Lawrence is playing. I would expect him to play since he, had a chance to suit up last week. But I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence and Jags pulling out a game in a must-win situation.
Yeah, what I've latest I've heard is Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk was limited on Wednesday. Is like the last thing I seen. So I expect, definitely Trevor Lawrence to play, but I'd like to maybe see if somehow they can sneak Christian Kirk out. That would be big for them. But I think definitely just with Trevor Lawrence coming and what we seen at Travis Etienne last week, I think that'd be enough for this Jacksonville team to see. A Tennessee offense has been very much struggling the past couple of weeks. And we've seen Will Levis and now Ryan Tannehill kind of both be in and out of the lineup. So I just expect, Trevor Lawrence maybe fix the turnovers, definitely having a week to see what this team does without doing that. Maybe he can add that to his playbook this week and get a big win for Jacksonville.
Agree with you there, Christian. The next one, this is our first matchup between non-playoff teams. It's a couple of AFC East opponents. The New York Jets traveling to the 4-12 New England Patriots. I think both teams are pretty motivated to lose this game and get a higher draft pick. And I don't think any coach is probably better at manipulating a team, setting them up for a poor performance as Bill Belichick. He's kind of done that with the Patriots these last few weeks. They very much have mailed it in. I think they'll continue to do that. And the Jets will make a few plays on defense and win this football game.
Yeah, actually went New England here. I think Bill Belichick kind of knows that he's kind of out the door a little bit, and he can do one last middle finger
Sabotage.
to Robert
Yeah,
Kraft and get a dub
sabotage.
here.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think they've shown a little bit of life here of late, and I think Bill Belichick really goes about his operation each week the same, and it's to win games. I don't think that he's worrying about play or draft positioning or anything like that. He's trying to win games. He's trying to get that record. That's Bill Belichick, as far as I think, anyway. So I'm going to go with New England.
I went back and forth just thinking what I think this game's going to ultimately come down to is a defensive game, who's going to get the ball more. And I think last week what I seen out of Zappy and a Buffalo defense that really doesn't make turnovers happen. You can argue and say they do make big plays, but we've seen Zappy throw 3 interceptions last week, and I just think against a Jets defense that's way better, at least in my eyes, than a Buffalo defense. I expect them to let Zappy have a hard day. They're going to get back there to him. So I think ultimately just doing that and probably put the offense in positive positions a lot in this game. I expect the Jets to win and, Bill Belichick really be icing on the cake for his exit of New England.
Okay. I like a lot of what you guys said there. Interesting takes. Bill Belichick era obviously could be the last time we see him on a New England sideline here week 18 against the Jets. So interesting stuff to keep an eye on for the offseason. Up next, we're going to segue into the NFC South, a couple of games. They're all facing each other this week, and you got 3 teams still fighting for the crown. Interesting enough, it's going to be the Falcons, who sit at 7-9 with the outside chance to win this division with a losing record, much as the Bucs did last year, if things fall their way. First up, they got to take care of business on the road against the Saints, and then they got to hope for the Bucs to lose the ball game to get into the playoffs. But that said, I think the Saints played probably their best game of the year, one of last week against the Bucs. That defense really flew around and had a day, and Derek Carr looked fairly solid moving the ball around for the offense. So I'm going to take the Saints. I predicted the Saints to win the division and way back before the season even started. Still possible, so maybe I'm hoping for that to come true. But regardless of what Tampa does, I think Saints have been a slightly more consistent unit, so I'm going to take them in this ball game.
Oh boy, I went with Atlanta. Not that it's worked out for me a whole lot this year, but I'm gonna write it out, man. I've been saying Atlanta this, Atlanta that. Well, now it's time. It's time to come down to it. And one thing I've said about New Orleans all season is they're consistently inconsistent. And just because they played their best game, they might play their worst game this week. So I'm going to go with Atlanta. I don't love it. I really don't love either one of these teams. So just give me Atlanta, man.
After what I seen last week of both of these teams, that really led me to this pick, and it's going to be the Saints. And I think, honestly, we've talked about this a lot on the pod, but I think with this loss and definitely with what happened in Chicago, this could be Arthur Smith's last game. I know we've heard that he's here to stay, but if this gets ugly, I think it is going to get, as long as Derek Carr does not turn the ball over, I think they could really make this game ugly. So I went with the Saints. I just think this defense is going to make whoever the quarterback is, they like putting both of them in, whoever they put in. At this point, it doesn't matter. Just the team does not get the ball to their playmakers when they should. We've talked about it nonstop all year. And with that, it just makes me automatically go with the Saints. So that's something they have done this year.
Yeah, and then you get to the next game here. You got the best team, or probably the highest upside team of the NFC South all year. They have the inside track to win the division. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers sitting at 8-8. All they got to do is win against the team with the worst record in football, and they are NFC South champions. They travel to Bank of America Stadium to take on the Panthers. I think Baker had a rough one last week against a good Saints defense. I don't see a lot of hope in the Panthers defense and especially in the Panthers offense to generate anything. So I'm going to take Baker to finish it off and win the NFC South for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, so all they got to do is beat the team in the NFL with the worst record to win the division. Easier said than done, right? Yeah. I am going to go with Carolina with the upset of the week. I'm sorry, man. I want to see Atlanta take this division. I'm going to stick with my picks. And the reasoning behind it is Bryce Young recently had the best game of his young career, and he's going to be looking to build on that after a little bit of rough outing last week. But not a real great reason here other than I want the Falcons to win the NFC South. So went with Panthers.
Brian, did you not learn from my mistake last week, brother? No Trevor Lawrence. Still, I know Bryce Young had a great game. What you just said make me have flashbacks. And with that, man, NFL, exactly. I've seen Bryce Young, except for one game this year, get eaten up. So with that being said, Tampa Bay, I think this will be a big bounce back. I mean, we know Tampa Bay run game will not be there, but anything I think Baker Mayfield wants to do, and definitely Mike Evans, I think will probably more than likely happen in this game. We're just seeing a no Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I think they expected Travis Etienne to have a big day, and they let it happen. So, with that being said, I just think Tampa Bay wins this, win the division, and then from there, it really just depends on where the seedings go.
Yep, those teams facing each other really is poetic justice, given how mid that division has been all year. You've got 7-9 and 8-8 teams fighting for a division crown. So much different than the nightcap we're going to get between an 11-win and 10-win Buffalo and Miami fighting for a division title. So just the paradox between the AFC and the NFC as a whole, really. And we keep moving along into the 4 o'clock window with NFC teams. A playoff hopeful wildcard team in the NFC, the Green Bay Packers, will be hosting the Chicago Bears. I think one of the hottest teams in football, especially given how the defense is played. That said, I think the Packers will come in well coached. Aaron Jones has been a great boost to the offense. Jordan Love is making big-time throws. I think this game comes down to the wire. The Packers had that taste of missing the playoffs thanks to Detroit last year in the final week. I don't think they let that happen 2 years in a row, and they beat the Bears in this one to clinch a playoff spot.
Yeah, I went with Green Bay as well. I do think this has the potential to be a tightly contested game here. But, man, Jordan Love has been playing good football, like I've been saying all season. I think that he'll have an opportunity to really push the ball a little bit in this game. But also, I think Fields could have a massive game here because I believe in the Green Bay offense. But one thing I will say is I do not believe in the Green Bay defense at all. So I think Justin Fields can get some things going on the ground. And did you guys know that Justin Fields was the leading rusher for the Bears?
Probably not.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, though.
630 yards on the ground. But he's missed a couple games this year. What did he miss? 3 games with the thumb?
3 or 4. I want to say 3.
Yep. So he's got about 3,000 all-purpose yards on the year, missing 3 games. But I think the Packers are the better team right now. I do think this could be a close game, though.
I went with an upset. I got Chicago. I think this defense is going to be a greater defense, and I think Jordan Love was honestly maybe going to struggle a little bit against this defense. And I think what we've seen out of Justin Fields, it seems like since he's came back off of being hurt, I've done said it once, but just week in and week out, he's been more impressive. And I mean, honestly, since crazy enough to say this, but since the Chargers beat Chicago, this team has gotten better and better since that loss and kept all their games since the Chargers lost close. And I think with that being said, I just think what we've seen, I mean, in the snow last week against Atlanta, I expect Justin Fields to still have success passing, definitely if it is whatever the weather's going to be in Green Bay. And I just think Aaron Jones had a big week, yes, last week, but this Chicago's defense has been impressive to me. So I think that they're going to come to play. And ultimately, I think Chicago's going to pull an upset and get this win.
Yeah, interesting stuff from the schedule makers there. You had this matchup week 1, all the way back in week 1. Green Bay dominated on the road against Chicago. They're going to have to put together another performance like that at home to clinch a playoff berth. And moving along, we've got the next matchup between AFC West teams. One, I truly don't know what direction to go with. You're going to have the Broncos traveling to the Raiders. There's a long list of backup QBs, that is, playing in Week 18. These two, I could care less to see either of them. I think it'll be very much a defensive slugfest. I guess I lean better towards the Broncos. They've kind of been a better unit, but the Raiders are no slouch in their own in the defensive side with Max Crosby. So I could go either way, but as of right now, I'm going to take Denver to win this game.
I went with the Raiders here. I think that just one last hoorah for Antonio Pierce to trying to, take this head coaching job and get an opportunity at it next year. I think that the players are rooting for him. They want him to stay in house. So I think that they have a little bit more to play for versus the Broncos under Sean Payton benching Russell Wilson. The season's disaster. Things have not been going according to plan. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Raiders here.
Yeah, I'm going to lean with what Brian said. I think, this will be the second year the Raiders can make the right decision and maybe keep who's led this team to get back right and maybe have a fighting chance. And we've seen they made that mistake last year, and I think this year be the year where they get this win. They'll see the coach in front of them. Hey, we can keep them or move on. We did the same thing last year. I ultimately just think, Devontae Adams, I think I understand it's going to be a defensive game, but I just expect, the playmakers that are on the Raiders side, and we've seen White come on and really be not a bad back for them since, Jones has been out, or Jacobs, my bad. So I just think with that being said, I just, I seen what Denver was last week playing a sorry Chargers defense, and I just know the Raiders defense is a good bit ahead of where the Chargers defense is right now. And I can expect Max Crosby to be in the backfield a lot with Jarrett Stidham.
Yep. Next up, guys, we get back to the NFC side of things and the East matchup between the Eagles and the Giants. The Eagles really stubbed their toe last week. Even if they win this ball game, if Dallas wins, the Eagles will be a wild card team. So they're technically playing for the division, but they're going to need help if they want to win that division. And it looks like they'll be traveling on the road. And the world just seems to be burning around the Eagles. But that said, I think there's a lot of talent, and they can still make a playoff run if they just tweak a few things and tighten up a little bit in a few areas. I think they'll do their best to get on the right path and start that in Week 18 and do that against the Giants with a much cleaner performance on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I almost picked the Giants here. I really did. I think Eagles have been playing down to their competition a lot this season. I think that they're a much more talented football team than they've shown as of late. But I am going to go with the Eagles here. Although I'm kind of starting to fall off of the Eagles. I don't think they're the team I thought they were for sure. And I do think that this team, depending on who they get in the first round, could be a first-round exit. So look for this one to be close. This should be an opportunity for the Eagles to get right. Half of me thinks maybe they will. The other side thinks, man, this is going to be more of the same that we've seen this season. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here. Super not confident in it, though.
Man, I did go back and forth just because, we know what Arizona is. I seen what James Conner and even Michael Carter was doing. And that was against a not very good offensive line, and the Giants' offensive line is not that much better, but it is. But I just ultimately went with the Eagles. I just think, you have the better quarterback, you have the better receivers. You should be able to do more offensively if it is a shootout that should win this game. But, last week we seen that it wasn't. But I just ultimately think the Eagles need this one. They know how bad they need it. I think they spent a lot of, definitely team meetings. I've heard A.J. Brown did something with the team. It was just for the team guys. So I expect them to rally, get a big win against a Giants team that I don't think it's going to be an easy win because, I mean, what I've seen out of Tyrod Taylor last week was very impressive.
Yep, a team that needs to get right and get right in a hurry heading into postseason play. The next team we're going to talk about here is a team hoping to crack that postseason window as an NFC wild card. That's going to be the Seattle Seahawks traveling to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals obviously just spoiled the Eagles' inside track at an NFC East title. They could do that again this week and spoil the Seahawks' chances for an NFC wild card spot. So, not as much as a mail it in easy pick as we may have thought earlier on in the year, but with Seattle playing for what they are, the stakes as high as they are, they played well last week. They just didn't really do enough on defense against Pittsburgh of all teams, which was shocking. I think they'll clean a few things up. Geno and that side of the ball, I haven't been too worried about. They'll put together enough points to beat the Cardinals and clinch a playoff spot for my money. So give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, I went with Seattle as well. I do think that Arizona and John Gannon have really put together an impressive season for what they have on the roster. But, like you guys said, the stakes here, I think Seattle's really got to show up to play. And I don't think that they will lay an egg here. I think that Geno Smith and company understand what this means for them. They need to win this game. I think they do.
I'm going to keep it short. Just Seattle, better team. DK Metcalf, I think, will definitely be eating up on this defense. So I just think, him and Walker and definitely Geno, big bounce back week for them. And we've seen them, win some big games this year. And I can see them really, sealing the deal and going on into the playoffs.
All right, next up, guys, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the LA Chargers. The Chiefs locking up the West last week, so I'm not sure how many regulars are going to be playing in this game. And the Chargers have really fought hard for the interim coach. But that said, I think the bow on the Chargers season will bless Christian. Like, he's had a tough year. You want a better draft pick, right? I think they'll accomplish that. They'll lose this ball game. I'm not trying to throw jabs, Ryan. I don't know. I'm really not, man. I think the Chiefs are have some depth, enough depth. Regardless if they play the starters or not, Christian, I'm trying to cheer you up, man. I don't know what Brian's laughing about. So I'm taking the Chiefs, and I think the Chargers solidify a top 5 pick, whatever it's going to be.
All right, Christian, I'm going to bless you, man. Your team's going to lose.
All right, I see what you're saying now. It comes off, but NFL fans would be
I know
little, it's hard to root for a loss, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. Andy Reid's coaching them. I really don't have a whole lot to go off of here. I mean, this is a skeleton crew versus skeleton crew as far as I'm concerned. Flip a coin. Go ahead. Doesn't really matter. Kansas City, I'm going to pick them.
All right, I flipped the coin. It landed on the Chargers. Patrick Mahomes is sitting among other Chiefs starters. And then this is where you've seen Galbert as being the starter. So I think, with that being said, I think the Chargers should have enough. Isaiah Pacheco will not be out there running like he did last week. I think that'll help us, definitely. So I just, think this would be the Chargers will end it. The players fight, not just to be on this team next year, but this would be, a game they can put some tape out there against some backups, make it look a lot better than what it has been all year to really, move forward. Like you said, the interim coach tried, but honestly, I don't know what the Chargers' direction is right now. It's way too early to tell, but I think this would be just a nice win for all the guys that have stepped in and kind of try to take over the team.
Yeah, a lot of those things seem to fall in Week 18. You get guys that's been playing hard. They're playing hard for a new coach. A lot of times they're very, very motivated to make a point and showcase that they're worthy of an NFL roster spot, maybe elsewhere next season. So those type of things can bring out some good football. I would expect to see that from those type of guys in this football matchup. Next up, you kind of get more of the same. The Rams and the Niners. The Niners have locked up the 1 seed. The Rams have clinched a playoff berth, and I believe they will be resting a lot of starters, according to Sean McVay. So with that said, I just like the Niners' depth a lot more. I think they're a deeper roster. They will get to 13 wins and win this ball game in Week 18.
Sam Darnold versus Carson Wentz, baby. Sign me up.
Jesus Christ.
Sam Darnold led 49ers, and I don't know if you guys remember, but I thought Sam Darnold could actually make some noise with this team. I think his skill set works well with the system and Shanahan getting the most out of quarterbacks, yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, I think that the 49ers will pull this one out by a big performance from Sam Darnold in Week 18.
All right, Brian. After you said all that, I was thinking, man, long and hard about this pick for real, man. But I'm seeing ghosts, and I'm seeing a dog on the other side. His son had 2 broken ankles with the Colts, doing everything he can. I think he knows this is his last chance, man. Carson Wentz has to realize this is his last chance. So with that being said, I can see him having some Baker Mayfield magic. When he was with the Rams, what he did his last, couple games with them. And I think Carson Wentz come out and win this game. Great coaching staff on the Rams. They've won no one's seen them at 9-7 this year. And I think, with a lot of the playmakers for the 49ers out, I think that's going to be enough for me not to believe that much in Sam Darnold, because it's not so much the system is still going to be what it is, but we're talking about without George Kittle, without Debo. So I don't think it's going to be how it's been with, Brock Purdy back there. But I can see Carson Wentz, ultimately win this game. And I just think, and come on, Carson, please don't let me look dumb, man. Please.
Interesting pick there. A lot of those types of matchups. The next one has implications for the winning team, if that is Dallas. I think all of us are going to be on Dallas in this football game. They're sitting at 11-5. They'll travel to Washington to play the Commanders. 1 victory, and they are NFC East champions. I don't think any of us predicted the Cowboys to overtake the Eagles this year. We all thought the Cowboys were a playoff-worthy team, but credit to them and that win against Philadelphia, and Philadelphia stubbing their toe last week was enough to win them this division, as long as they just take care of business. And Washington's been one of the worst teams in football, especially since the trade deadline. I don't see that changing. Give me Dak and the Cowboys to clinch the NFC East.
Yeah, not much to argue with there, Chase. I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. Dak Prescott, big day. Washington Commanders defense really struggling, especially as of late, since firing Jack Del Rio, right? That's his name? Yeah. And Ron Rivera taking over defense. It's been a disaster. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
CeeDee Lamb, expect him to have a big day. I understand that's going to lead to Dak Prescott, but I expect CeeDee Lamb to go crazy in this game. So we're going with Dallas. I hate to see what happened to Washington. We kind of expected it. New ownership's probably not happy with how the year ended out. We'll talk more about them probably, in the offseason. But I think Dallas, big win, and like Chase said, ultimately winning the division.
And that gets us to the highest stakes game of NFL Week 18. You see Christian with the Bills Mafia shirt on. You know who he's rooting for. Brian, you know where his heart lies. We've got the Buffalo Bills, who sit at 10-6, traveling to Miami in Sunday Night Football, the final regular season game, to take on the 11-5 Dolphins. Miami, a strong grasp on the AFC East all season long. But with how the schedule has panned out for them, a tough last 3-game stretch, losing last week, and then Buffalo reeling off 4 straight wins to get to 10-6, has painted the picture for this high-stakes matchup. And given how Buffalo's season's gone, I think this is a great microcosm of it, because if they were to lose, they can find themselves out of postseason play. All they need is a Pittsburgh win or a Jacksonville win, I believe, a few other scenarios, partnered with a loss to Miami, and Buffalo's not even playing in the playoffs, guys. So huge motivation for them. Miami's thankfully locked up for you, Brian, but it's much different hosting a playoff game than it is traveling. Seeding purposes is a lot on the line here. Can Miami get over the hump? Can they win the AFC East? Season's beginning, I picked Buffalo to win this division. I think the season has went through, and I've been proven that Miami is the better team, the more consistent team. But right now they are very, very banged up. And for that reason, and for how Josh Allen has played since the change in offensive coordinator, I'm going to go with the Bills to pull off the comeback, win the AFC East, and take this division, thanks to Josh Allen giving a heck of a primetime performance.
Yeah, so I got you with the scenario here because obviously I'm very tuned in with that, and it is the Pittsburgh Steelers need to beat Baltimore, Jacksonville needs to beat Tennessee, and Miami needs to beat Buffalo, and then the Buffalo's Bills on the outside looking in, they missed the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay.
Crazy, but
I mean, with how we predicted, not to cut you off, Brian, but Ravens resting starters. Steelers can very much win that game, and then the Jags play the Titans, a game they should win, and it'll give them the AFC South. So you'll know your fate, or the Bills fans will know their fate come Sunday night when this game kicks off. You can know you're playing for the division, or you're playing, and if you lose, you go home. So highest stakes of the week.
Big deal. So there's a lot on the line here, obviously. I think Miami is quite beat up, like you had said. Losing Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, missing Jalen Ramsey for a portion of the season. Now Xavier Howard is out for this matchup. Javon Holland's missed several weeks. Deshaun Elliott's missed several weeks. So, I mean, you're looking at a lot of premier Jerome Baker. And then on offense, Tyreek Hill's banged up. Jalen Waddle's banged up. Devon Achane is now questionable for the game. Raheem Mostert's questionable for the game. You lost one of the best centers in football. Robert Hunt's one of the better guards in football. Isaiah Wynn's a pretty solid starter himself. I mean, you can just keep on and on and on. These are all good players. They're not, run of the mill, maybe Isaiah Wynn, but you're looking at Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Raheem Mostert, and I mean that's your offense. So I think that being said, Buffalo kind of treading water as of late. They've not been playing their best football. I understand that they have won games and that they are healthy right now. I think this is a statement game for Tua, man. I really do. I think that this is an opportunity for him without his weapons to showcase what he brings to the table and win this game, send Buffalo packing home and go into the playoffs with momentum. This is the time to do it. If you are a franchise quarterback, these are the kind of moments you do step up and you play to that standard. And I think that he has it in him. Obviously, I'm a fan. I'm a believer in the Dolphins and in Tua. I think that they get this done, and it's a statement.
All right. On a serious note, man, prayers to Tyreek Hill and his household, and I seen him with his little boot. So prayers for his boot too. But even without or with his boot, I think Buffalo will win this game. I just think, I'm not going to list what Brian just lists. That's a long name. I understand, for a great team, injuries doesn't matter. But when you have that many injuries, I mean, Buffalo also, has some injuries too. I've heard that Josh Allen was a little banged up in the New England game, dealing with a shoulder injury, but I think he's good to go. I think, my big thing is just way too many injuries. Like Brian said, I mean, them three guys he named on offense, that's been their offense in reality. So I just think, with their defense getting, it is Bailey Zappi, but the 3 turnovers, build upon that, going to play, Tua that you can argue, 2 interceptions. Yes, you can argue was his fault, wasn't his fault. It's really just a great player in Raekwon Smith making plays. But I just think, new offensive coordinator know if he wants to keep his job for 100%, this is where it's going to come down to. And if this offense can cook up against Miami and ultimately, letting them win the division. So I just think, I will end on this, man. Buffalo is the daddy. So they're going to stay the daddy and win this game.
Yeah, Brian, to echo everything you said, man, if not now, when? For Miami as a whole organization, for Tua as a proven or looking to prove it franchise quarterback, I think he's really answered that bell this season, but you still don't have a signature win under your belt. Winning the division against your biggest rival, a team you've yet to get over the hump at in a high-stakes primetime game, would go a long way. So
I would do it.
That's the game we're going to be all eyes on. And I think because it's the prime time, we may end up doing the recap episode of Week 18 maybe a little later so we can get that playoff preview kind of set up for you guys. But, man, NFL regular season coming to an end. It's been a great ride. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking each and every week with you guys on these picks. As things stand for our listeners, the game picks, Brian is just 2 ahead of me for the best record and as far as our game picks for the season. So maybe another reason for me to pick Buffalo, look to overtake him in that and sneak out a win because he's had a firm grasp on it all year long. I think we've all picked with our hearts at times and with our heads, and that's bit us at times, but all in all, great season from us. I think we've done a solid job in analyzing these games and all these things. So I just want to take a moment to thank you listeners for following along with us. Do us a favor and give us a follow on Twitter. I am at Chase Owens 96. Christian is at C_Mills241. Brian is at Sarver_Brian. Do us a favor, follow the YouTube and TikTok pages at Hot Route Takes. Like, share, subscribe, all videos, TikToks, YouTube shorts, and all those things. Leave a comment. Tell us what you guys are thinking on the videos themselves. And rate, review the podcast itself. Please help us grow as a community. Y'all have been doing a great job of that lately, and we appreciate it. Every single one of you that do so from all over the country and internationally as well. So thank you guys. Until next time, we will see you for the Takes episode, which we're getting ready to record and release for you guys later this week as well. Thank you as always, guys. Until next time, peace out.
Peace.
Josh Allen's still the daddy.